Hi everyone, welcome back to the USCPA classes for financial accounting and reporting. In this particular video, I'll be walking you through in detail about long-term debt. This is part 2 of long-term debt, and here we'll be covering modification and extinguishment of debt or notes as well, and then we'll cover the topic trouble debt restructuring by debtor. So let's dive into to finish off the long-term debt part 2.
Now we are jumping into 3.8.3, which is modification and extinguishment of the debt or note. So what do you mean by modification or extinguishment of the debt? So like we have already discussed same way earlier before the break also, and similar things which we have discussed in ASC 606 also, which is like if there is any change in terms or change in price, that means change in scope or change in price, that particular event is being considered or result into the modification. Or if it is like extinguishment, that means like one debt is converting into another debt, or maybe one debt is terminating, that's also called extinguishment of the debt. So here first we will be understanding what is modification. So modification include change in debt, right? So change in debt may be on account of change in scope, that means amount has increased, amount has decreased, or maybe period has increased, period has increased, interest rate has increased, or interest rate has decreased, any such things. So which is resulting into the change or resulting in impacting into the change in inflow and outflow of the cash on account of those respective debt is called modification of the debt or note. So change in debt or note terms is considered as modification. Substantial modification of the terms shall be accounted for as an extinguishment. So for example, of change in terms of period, interest rate, or change in maturity amount, etc. So example is change in term, period, interest, or maturity amount, etc. has been considered as a modification in the debt or note. Extinguishment. Extinguishment of debt is considered if either of the following two conditions are met. First one is debtor pay the creditor and relieve of its obligation. That means once you have done the full and final settlement of the respective debtor, so then the debt or loan is called extinguished. That means has been no more left. Second is the debtor is legally released from the recovery of the amount. So it may be a time bar. So do you know like what is the time bar? Any idea? What is time bar debt?
Yes, sir. Sir, basically, time barring means that after a certain period of time, the liability to repay the debt would expire, and the one person who has taken the loan is no longer required to pay back.
Yeah, very true. In India, it is like 2 year, and same applies in US also. So time bar, like if the person who is expected to receive has not received, or neither he has made any effort to do the collection, or has not made any legal effort for the collection, then that particular debtor is being called time bar debt. In that case of scenario also, the person, the creditor, is being considered as extinguished from the respective debt or note receivable. Note over here is any difference between the carrying amount or the settlement amount should be included in the income statement as either gain or loss. So if for example you have $100,000 receivable or payable, but actually you are paying $80,000. So then difference of $20,000 for the person who is supposed to pay, right, the creditor, for them it's an income. And for the debtor who is expected to be received and receiving less $20,000, for him it is bad debt expense, right? So you need to record the difference between the carrying amount and the settlement amount into the income statement. So net carrying amount is equal to face value plus or minus the amortization of issue cost or discount or premium. So that is being considered as the carrying amount minus the collection or settlement. So whatever is the difference is being considered as the income or losses, right? Very simple.
Yes,
Any
sir.
doubt what is modification or extinguishment?
No, sir. Clear.
Right? Very simple, very clear. Next is trouble debt restructuring by debtor. Trouble debt restructuring by debtor mean the debtors which like where recovery is hard, right? Have you done any audit of bank or by any chance have you heard like term called NPA, non-performing asset?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? What is
Yes,
that?
sir. When the interest is not being served
Mm-hmm.
and the principal is not, even the interest is not being served for continuously 1 or 2 quarters, then
Mm-hmm.
it becomes termed as NPA. And
Mm-hmm.
then there is a rating SMA 1, SMA 2, SMA 3.
Mm-hmm.
They rate their debtors like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When
What
when the
else?
when the security is less than the
Mm-hmm.
debt offered,
Mm-hmm.
then it is a NPA.
Mm. Yeah, so a couple of good examples, sir, which you have shared. One is,
Yeah.
like the bank has given the loan to any particular company, whereas the loan amount is more than the security deposit. So
Yes,
then,
sir.
to that extent, like the bank do not have surety of the recoverability of the money. And at the same time, if the company is not paying interest or principal for more than 2 quarters, like you said, then bank is, as per the banking law, they require to consider that amount as an NPA, not right, non-performing assets. And to those non-performing assets, they are mandatory required to create certain provision, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just keep that example in mind, and then you'll be easily able to correlate with this theory as well. So when creditor for economic or legal reason grant a concession to the debtor for the amount receivable, this concession may be from an agreement between the creditor and the debtor, or it may be imposed by the law of the court. So that company which has taken the loan from the bank is not in a financial position to pay that complete amount back. So now the amount which bank has given to me for the bank, it is a troubled debt, right? They are not going to recover the entire principal as well as the interest on it. In that case of scenario, both the parties sit together and reach to some mutual conclusion. One. Second, they may go to the arbitration. Third, it may go to the solvency, right? So there it may be imposed by the degree of court, right? Any such situation can be happen, but crux of the story or bottom line is that the person who has given the money, the person who is a debtor, the person who has made an investment, the person who has given the loan to the company would be recovering less than the amount provided, right? It may be on account of mutual discussion, it may be on account of arbitration, or it may be on account of degree of the court, or it may be imposed by the law, right? If you see in the COVID time, right, the US government has waived off all the students' loan for the 2 years, right? So that is by law. Make sense?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
A trouble debt restructuring is normally accomplished by one or a combination of the following. First one is transfer of assets from debtor to creditor. That means, for example, let's keep that bank loan example in your mind. Let's assume the Bank of America has given, let's say, $1 million of the loan to XYZ company. And that XYZ company do have, let's say, security of $500,000 of fixed assets they have given to the bank, and the bank has given 100,000 loans to them. But after a year, the XYZ company is not in a position to repay the principal amount as well as the interest amount. Right now, they are going and getting into the settlement. Right, when they are getting into the settlement, there may be like multiple ways to settle the amount. One is XYZ company say, I do not have any money. Right, you can take all of my assets. Second is they can say, I don't have money, but my business is going really awesome and it's creating a huge value. Right, and you may fund me further and take some equity. So equity investment also like US Bank do. NBFC also do over there. Third could be modification of debt. That means instead of 10 years, you can take the EMI for 25 years. Instead of 10% interest rate, give me the concession on that interest rate. That is called reduction in the interest rate, right? Or the extension of the maturity. So any such individual thing or a combination of any of such 5 things could be possible for the settlement between the debtor and creditor. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So let's try and understand with some example. So first one, for modification and extinguishment of debt, accounting treatment. First one says accounting for transfer of asset. Right? In the first example, very first example where we have discussed, the bank has given $1 million of the loan to XYZ company, and now XYZ company is not in a position to pay the principal and interest. But XYZ company do have $500,000 worth of assets. So they said, take these assets and settle the loan. Right? So what will be the accounting entry in XYZ Limited? Look at left hand side, debtor. So I'll be reducing my note payable. Right? My liability would having a credit balance. Yes, no.
Right.
Right? So now to remove the liability, I need to do the debit. So I'll be debiting $100,000 of note payable.
Correct.
Or shall I do in Excel sheet? It's more comfortable to each one of you. So maybe let's take an example over here. Loan amount, how much? 100,000?
100,000.
Right? Sorry, 1 million. Okay. Assets with XYZ. Let's say 500. So they have taken a loan of $100,000 and now they are saying I have an assets of $500 worth. You can take that asset. So in this case of scenario, like XYZ company. So they will be having note payable. They have note payable of $1 million. So that they need to debit.
Right.
So let's say this is your debit and this is your credit. So they will debit this entire amount here.
$1 million.
Right? And they are foregoing
Assets.
asset.
Fine.
So the difference is what? Income or loss?
Income.
Income for 500,000.
How much? $500,000.
Right. Right.
Now, if you see this example, note payable account debit, if there is any impairment loss that you need to add over here, then the asset which you are transferring, and if on those assets there is any appreciation on account of change in fair value, then that also you need to credit, and difference is the gain on restructuring of debt. Right? If, for example, this $500,000 of asset which they have appreciated value is, let's say, 600,000, then what will be the entry?
book value पे
asset appreciation.
हाँ
How much?
100.
Right? So this will be the journal entry if that's the case. Make sense?
Right.
Right.
Revaluation gain. Oh, right.
Or if depreciated, then you would be having additional
Revaluation loss.
loss. Right. In that case scenario, this will also change.
Right.
Hmm?
800,000.
Now look at other side, creditor side, banker side. So banker is receiving asset. So
Right.
he or she will be debiting the assets, right? And then he or she will be incurring the loss on account of restructuring because they will be recovering less.
Correct.
So that loss will be debited and the credit will be not receivable.
Not receivable. Right.
Right? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Right? Next is issuance of equity. For example, company like 𝐂𝐨𝐬𝐿, beta startup, right? Now bank came and say like, if for example, like company is not paying principal and interest and we get into a settlement, and I've shown like next 5-year projection is super high. It's good you invest in equity, right? Somehow I convinced them to invest in equity. So what will be the journal entry? So note payable account debit to common stock, which is the common stock is always be at face value,
Right.
And the security premium will go into the additional paid in capital, right? And the remaining difference is the gain on the debt restructuring. On the other side, banker will consider this as an investment in 𝐂𝐨𝐬𝐿 Private Limited, right? Loss on restructuring to note receivable. Right? Any doubt here?
No, sir.
Okay. So one more example is modification of debt term. So first one is reduction in interest rate. Once again, B, I think it should be C. So modification in debt terms we have considered C. Yes. Yeah, modification in debt terms include, modification in debt terms. So this is C. Include reduction in interest rate or reduction in face value or maturity amount. So first one is reduction in interest rate. For example, C holds 100,000 note payable from D bearing 10% interest. Reduction to 5% interest agreed between C and D, payable semi-annually. So at the time of agreement, no entry at the time of change in the terms of agreement is required. However, at year end, instead of $5,000 of interest, you will be paying $2,500. So interest expense will be $2,500 and the cash outflow is $2,500. Right? At the time of modification, it does not require any journal entry. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Next example is reduction in the face value or maturity amount and interest. C hold from D note with the face value of 100,000 and interest is 10%. Agreement to reduce the face value of note to 60,000 and interest to 8% and the time to 2 years. So total future cash receivable is 69,900 to D and payable to C. So how we have calculated this 69,600? 60,000 is the face value plus 8% interest for a period of 2 years, which is 9,600. So total amount payable is 69,600. So gain to the C would be $100,000 minus 69,600, that is 30,400. So total debt receivable restructuring gain recorded by C Limited is the note payable account debit to restructuring gain. So here what they are saying, so let's say there is a loan, or you can say there is a note payable. Shall I add in the same example?
Yes, sir.
Note payable is $100,000 and interest is 0%. Now they have done the restructuring. In the restructuring, what they are saying, in the restructuring, they are saying the period will be 2 years and they have interest will be 8% for these 2 years. So interest expense
1 lakh into 8%.
interest expense is equal to restructured note payable is 60,000.
Okay.
So this multiplied by 2 multiplied by 0.08,
800.
right? So 9,600 would be interest for 2 years. And now what is the gain or loss? So total amount was this.
400.
Now actual amount they end up paying is this, right? So this 30,400 is a amount of gain for the debtor and loss for the creditor, right? How the debtor will record into their books of account? Very simple. Note payable account debit to restructuring gain of 30,400. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And at the year end, it will be interest. Note payable account debit to cash, which is the payment of interest. But before that, we'll be booking interest expense account debit to note payable.
Sir, एक सेकंड, ये 30,400 पूरा गेन अमाउंट कैसे हुआ?
1 second.
नहीं होगा, टोटल तूने उतना देना था, उसमें से इंटरेस्ट प्लस वो हटा दिया, नेट अमाउंट होगी ना, नेट ही हो गया.
Interest expense account debit, which is
ओके, अब सिर्फ 60,000 देना ना. हाँ, वही तो बोल रहा हूँ. ठीक है सर, समझ आ गया. गॉट इट.
got it.
यस सर.
30,400 you're saying?
यस सर.
So this is what we have calculated here also.
राइट सर, वो आ गया समझ. ठीक है.
So here they are saying it is one second. So here it is payable semi-annually. She holds a note of 100,000 interest, agreed to reduce the face value 60,000, 8%, and it's for 2 years. Time is 2 years. Total future cash receivable is this. Gain is not payable to restructuring gain. Interest expense count debit. To not payable. And then after next entry would be not payable account debit to cash. Again it is 4800.
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है इसमें पूरे काम जो इनिशियली फेस वैल्यू थी दैट वाज $1 लाख ओके हमने उसको दोबारा से करा कि भाई इतना ही करना है दैट अमाउंट इज 60,000 1 लाख है और जो 60,000 है इन दोनों के बीच का जो डिफरेंस है दैट इज 40,000 फेस वैल्यू पे बात करूं तो क्योंकि 1 लाख वी वर नॉट कंसिडरिंग द इंटरेस्ट अमाउंट तो उसके ओवर एंड अबव जाता ना 1 लाख के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट तो
हाँ but finally what you are going to end up paying instead of 100,000 you're going to end up paying interest as well.
तो हमने सिर्फ क्या करा है कि प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट जो है उसी को कंपेयर करना चाहिए ना जैसे $1 लाख है दैट इज अ प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट हमने प्रिंसिपल को रिड्यूस करके 60,000 पे लेके आए हैं तो जो इन दोनों का डिफरेंस है वो 40,000 जो है वो प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट का डिफरेंस है कि उतना मैं प्रिंसिपल कम दूंगा बाकी जो इंटरेस्ट उसके ऊपर लगता है उसमें भी सेविंग होती
सर एक्चुअली क्या हुआ है आपने जो एक्सेल में एग्जांपल लिया था ना उसमें 1 लाख के ऊपर इंटरेस्ट 0% लिया था
got it no you're right Ash.
हाँ
Good morning sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Sorry, sir.
Oh my God.
स्कूल भी है आकाश की अरे
We tried calling you.
सॉरी सर पता नहीं लगा सर क्या ही है यार
गिल्ट फील हो रहा
हो गया था मैंने
है
टाइम चेंज कराया और मैं ही नहीं उठा
आयुष उठते गिल्ट फील करा दिया तुमने भाई का संडे गिल्ट में जाने वाला आज
सही में
कोई नहीं वी आर अबाउट टू फिनिश
मतलब अच्छा ये लास्ट चल रहा है बस
yes just two more points which we need to finish
अच्छा कोई नहीं मैं रिकॉर्डिंग ले लूंगा फिर मैसेज करके
okay so yeah we are coming to very last point which is debt covenant compliance right so any doubt so far like Ayush Akash Rajiv sir
नो सर क्लियर
so clear so far we have covered note payable bond payable modification trouble of debt. Now coming to the last point, debt covenant compliance. So long-term debt often do have the covenant in the debt contract. These covenants are intended to protect the interest of the lending institution. So why we add the covenant? To protect the interest of the financer basically. Common ratios considered in the debt covenants include current ratio, quick ratio, debt to equity ratio, interest coverage ratio. These are very common ratios which is being considered as a covenant which financer wants the recipient of the fund should be managing and maintaining. If any such failure do happen, then it may result into call for debt.
Call for debt.
Once you are called for a debt, it is a short term, right?
Right.
Then you cannot classify that as a long term. And to ensure the sufficient liquidity and capacity to pay interest and principal amount. Why do financier is being interested in all these ratio? Because these ratio reflect the capacity to pay interest and the liquidity of the organization.
सर वो ऊपर ना lending institutes होगा.
इंस्टीट्यूशन नहीं आएगा.
नहीं, इंस्टीट्यूशन लैंडिंग लिखा होगा ना, लेंडिंग होगा, LENDN.
Yeah. Okay. Lending institutions. A covenant violation could result in the debt or bond become a callable. Such debt would no longer be classified as long-term debt, but would be classified as short-term liability. Right? So this all we have discussed. Now I think there's one very small thing. Yeah, accounting for accounting in debtors books. Okay, so previous example, sorry, we missed to finish this last paragraph. Accounting from the financial point of view will be at the present value of the required. So present value of the face value of the debt equal to original 10% interest rate, that is 49,632, 60,000 multiplied by the present value factor, which is 0.8227. So present value of the interest receivable is $8,510. So loss he will be recording is $100,000 minus 57,872 is equal to 42,128. So the loss which the financier would be booking in their books would be 42,128. Last one is impairment of loan. A loan is impaired when it is probable that creditor will be unable to collect all amount due, including both contractual interest payment and the principal payment, right? Same which we were discussing about the troubleshooting of the debt or trouble debts. So what are the trouble debt? Where as a receivable you are expecting to receive less than the amount which you have paid, or you are expecting not able to recover the principal or interest on the due course. Right, let's do a couple of examples. On January 2nd, 2001, Western Company issued 9% bond in the amount of $500,000, which mature on January 2, 2008. For how many years they have given? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 years. 7 years.
7 years, right.
Right. The bond were issued for $475,658 to yield 10% interest. Is payable annually on December 31st. Western used the interest method of amortizing bond discount. On June 30th, 2001, balance sheet, what amount should Western report as bond payable? So what is the call of the question? On 30th June 2001, which is my year end. At the year end, what amount of bond payable I should be showing? So let me take you to the Excel sheet. All of the question is face value of bond is how much? $500,000. Issue price is how much dollar?
658.
658. So what is the discount?
This
Minus this 24,000. The discount they have given, and interest rate is
10%.
Is 10%, right? And they want this to be amortized over the interest. Right? This is what they say. Western used the interest method to amortize the bond discount. So in June 30th, 2001 balance sheet, what amount should Western report as a bond? So what is the interest?
अच्छा 50,000 5 lakh into 10% into I think 6 months हो गए नहीं पूरे जो 6 months को क्या था जनवरी और जुलाई अच्छा
Right?
yes sir.
So in this proportionate, how much discount need to be amortized?
सर जितना लोन पीरियड है उस डिवाइड उसमें से डिवाइड बाय 7 कर देंगे 24,342 को.
Life is 7 years.
7 years, right?
So what will be the interest?
One second. Interest तो सर वही 6 months का जो निकाला है 25,000.
But how much discount you will amortize on that?
Yes sir, one second. On that, okay. Minus 47. कर दिया होगा 1738 नहीं इंटरेस्ट हाँ 173
Right?
राइट क्या निकला इतना 24,342 how much would be amortized? अच्छा डिवाइड बाय 7 फिर उसको प्रोपोर्शनेट करते हैं
476 941 476 9. There is some minor difference. So one second. So here we need to do like number of days for it. So instead of 25,000, how many days? Which date it was issued?
सर 1st January को करा था 2001
First January 2nd.
बस वही डिफरेंस आ गया
January 2nd. So I think there might be minor difference. Multiply by 179 divided by 180.
इमटेरियल करके निकाल सकते हैं सर
Yeah, I was just trying that. It's not material, but it's surprising. So this is on January 2nd, 2001. Oh, 9%. Issued 9% bond in the amount of this, which is mature on this. The bond were issued for this to yield 10%. So this is 9%. Right?
Sir, what was that 10% then?
10% is market rate.
Oh, yield है ना?
10% is market rate, but interest rate is 9%. So, but still it's not coming absolute amount. Right? On January 2nd, 2001, Western issued 9% bond for this. Okay.
सर इंटरेस्ट की अमाउंट पे एक बार उसमें फॉर्मूला क्या लगाएं?
Formula is right.
फॉर्मूला इज राइट.
9% of this to, or they said to yield 10%. I say 10%, and this into this into 0.5. This answer is, so there is some problem in the answer. So ideally it should be 477,214.
ठीक है सर, क्लोजेस्ट वही है तो हम वही कर देंगे.
क्यों 47? अच्छा 474 है नीचे. हाँ,
तो 6 क्लोजेस्ट हो गया.
Right. Okay, last question of the day. Wool Corporation report the following once again. Let me take this. Okay. So Wool Corporation reported the following liability at December 31st, 2006. Account payable 57,000. Payroll liability 32,500. Serial bond payable current portion 75,000. Total is 639,000. Note payable mature on November 30th, 2007. That means current portion. That is 211,000. Mortgage payable current portion 17,400. Total is 353. The bond payable of 639,000 was in violation of the covenant specified a bond contract. The creditor had not waived the right for the bond. What amount should W report as a current liability in 2006? So what will be reported in the current liability?
Sir,
Account payable,
payroll liabilities.
One second.
calculate
Payroll liability, and then this bond, entire bond will go to the current.
Yes, sir. Current portion इसमें 75 है ना?
Say that again.
639 was in violation. Okay.
Okay, correct.
Right. So what is the total of these 4 items?
सर ये भी तो होगा 211,000 क्योंकि
नवंबर को हो रहा है
30 November 2007 within 12 months payable है.
No, we will need to see like original maturity, I think.
नहीं मतलब हम तो जिस डेट को रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं उस दिन से देखते हैं ना 12 महीने.
Okay, so what is the total of all this? Let's do the math. 57,000 plus 32,500 plus 639,000 plus 11,123 plus 1,740. 956,900.
1 second, sir. Yes, sir. 956,900.
That's the answer.
353 भी ऐड हुआ है ना?
17
Right?
400 हुआ है ना?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है.
956.
Cool. So we are done with two major topic, which is your payable and accrued liability and long-term debt.
Sir, last time you were showing we have done business combination as well.
Business combination.
हो गया मैंने चेक कर लिया.
Yes.
मैं
this one 4.2.
मैंने पिक्चर भेजी थी शायद, वो किसी ना किसी क्लास में लास्ट में हुआ था आधे घंटे के लिए.
मेरी फोटो खींच के भेजी है.
हाँ, मैं उसको भेजा, मैंने कहा यार
हुआ नहीं टॉपिक.